Two bullets punched through Ethan Cole's back before he hit the ground. He didn't feel the pain, didn't feel anything except the girl beneath him, alive, breathing untouched. The diner window exploded inward. Glass rained like diamonds made of death. Screams erupted everywhere. But Ethan's eyes stayed locked on Sophie Reyes, the girl he'd never spoken to, the girl whose name he didn't even know, as blood pooled beneath them both. "Why?" she sobbed, her hands pressing against wounds she couldn't stop. "You don't even know me." Ethan smiled through the darkness closing in. Seemed important. He had no idea her father commanded the Hells Angels. Subscribe to our channel and stay until the very end to see how this incredible story unfolds. Drop a comment telling us which city you're watching from. We love seeing how far our stories travel. Ethan Cole saw the black SUV at 4:47 p.m. His fries had gone cold 20 minutes ago. He didn't care. $3 bought him an hour at Rosie's Diner, and he'd learned to stretch every minute. The SUV crawled past the front window. Tinted glass, chrome rims, moving too slow for traffic. Ethan's shoulders tightened. 17 years in Detroit's worst neighborhood had taught him things they didn't put in textbooks. How to spot a junkie before he got close. How to tell when a car was casing a block. How to feel danger before it showed its teeth. That SUV had teeth. He watched it turn the corner and disappear. Probably nothing. Ethan forced himself to look away, back to the calculus homework he couldn't afford to fail. Scholarship kids didn't get second chances. One bad semester and he'd be back to the SUV past again. 4:51 p.m., same slow crawl, same tinted windows. The driver's face was a shadow behind the glass. Ethan's hand stopped moving, his pencil hovered over the paper. 2 passes in 4 minutes on a street with no reason to circle. That wasn't nothing. He looked around Rosie's Diner. Sophomore girls taking selfies, freshman boys throwing straw wrappers. The usual chaos of teenagers pretending the world couldn't touch them. None of them noticed. None of them ever noticed anything. But Ethan noticed Sophie Reyes. She sat in booth 7, same as every day for the past 2 weeks. Brown hair falling across her face. Gray eyes locked on her textbook. Designer backpack worth more than his grandmother's monthly rent. Sophie Reyes didn't belong here. Girls who looked like her didn't eat at grease pit diners in bad neighborhoods. They didn't sit alone with untouched salads and expensive earbuds blocking out the world. But here she was, every single day. Same booth by the window. Ethan had tried not to stare, had tried to stay invisible the way he'd perfected over years of survival. But something about Sophie made his training fail. Maybe it was the sadness in her eyes. Maybe it was the way she seemed just as alone as him. Maybe it was the SUV came back. 4:58 p.m. This time it stopped, right in front of Sophie's window. Ethan's blood went cold. He stood up. His chair scraped the floor. A few heads turned, then looked away. Nobody cared about the scholarship kid in the corner booth. The SUV's rear window started rolling down. Time stretched like taffy. Ethan saw the hand first. Thick fingers wrapped around black metal. Then the barrel emerged, long and ugly and absolutely real. Not a movie, not a dream. A gun, pointed at Sophie Reyes. She hadn't looked up. She was still reading her textbook, still chewing her bottom lip, still completely unaware that death was 3 seconds away. Ethan's body moved. No decision, no thought, no time. Just 12 feet of checkered tile between him and the girl who was about to die. "Get down!" His voice ripped through the diner. Sophie's head snapped up. Her gray eyes found his face confused, annoyed, then widening as she saw him sprinting toward her like a madman. 9 feet. The gun barrel finished its arc. Black hole pointing straight at her chest. 6 feet. Sophie saw the gun. Her mouth opened to scream. 3 feet. Ethan launched himself. His shoulder hit her ribcage. His arms wrapped around her body. His momentum ripped her off the booth seat and sent them both crashing to the floor. He twisted in midair. Instinct. Survival. Making sure his back faced the window, his body covering hers completely. The world exploded. Glass rained down like crystal knives. The booth shredded apart in chunks of vinyl and wood. The air filled with thunder and smoke and screaming. Ethan felt the first bullet hit. It punched through his back below the left shoulder blade, like someone had pressed a hot iron through his skin and kept pushing. He gasped. The second bullet hit lower, near his spine, just above his belt. His whole body seized. Everything went white, then red, then a pain so complete it erased thought itself. But Sophie was beneath him, warm, trembling, alive. He'd done it. The shooting stopped. Silence crashed down. Car alarms wailed in the distance. Someone was screaming inside the diner, maybe multiple someones. Ethan couldn't tell anymore. His ears were ringing. His vision was going gray at the edges. "Don't move!" Sophie's voice cut through the fog, sharp, terrified. Oh God, don't move." "You..." Ethan tried to push himself up. His arms collapsed. "You okay? You're shot. There's blood everywhere. Why did you had to?" "You don't even know me." Ethan tried to smile. His lips weren't working right. Seemed important. Sophie's face swam above him, tears streaming down her cheeks, her hands pressing against his back, trying to stop the bleeding. It wasn't working. He could feel the warmth spreading beneath him, his blood pooling on the checkered floor. "Stay with me." Sophie's voice cracked. "You hear me? Stay with me." But the darkness was closing in, the gray edges of his vision creeping toward the center. Somewhere far away, Ethan heard a sound. Motorcycles, not one or two, dozens. A thunder of engines growing louder and louder, drowning out the car alarms and screams. Sophie heard it too. Something changed in her face. The panic didn't disappear, but something harder rose beneath it. Something cold and controlled. She grabbed her phone with blood-slicked fingers, hit a speed dial. "Code red." Her voice was ice. "Rosie's Diner, Jefferson Avenue. They found me." A pause, a man's voice growling through the speaker. "I'm not hit, but the boy who saved me." Sophie's control cracked. "Dad, he's dying. Get here now. Please, Dad, he's dying." Dad, the word echoed in Ethan's fading mind. Dad, who was her father? Why did someone want her dead? What the hell had he stumbled into? But the questions dissolved into darkness. The last thing Ethan Cole saw was Sophie's gray eyes wet with tears, fierce with something that looked almost like fury. The last thing he felt was her hand gripping his, refusing to let go. Then nothing. Sophie Reyes had trained for this moment since she was 8 years old. Not consciously, not willingly. But when your father is Marcus Stone Reyes, vice president of the Hells Angels, you learn certain things whether you want to or not. You learn that the world is full of enemies. You learn that your last name makes you a target. You learn that one day someone might try to kill you. She'd always imagined she'd be ready, that the training would kick in, the fear would stay manageable, that she'd handle it the way her father handled everything, cold, controlled, untouchable. She was wrong. Kneeling in a stranger's blood, her hands pressed against holes that wouldn't stop leaking, Sophie Reyes was not handling anything. She was falling apart. Come on, come on, come on. She pressed harder against Ethan's back. Blood squeezed between her fingers, warm and endless. Don't you dare die. Don't you dare. He didn't respond. His eyes had closed 30 seconds ago. His breathing was shallow, wet, wrong. She didn't even know his name. 2 weeks she'd been coming to this diner. 2 weeks of sitting in the same booth pretending to study, actually hiding from a war she'd never asked to be part of. And this boy, this skinny, invisible boy from the corner booth, had thrown himself between her and death without a moment's hesitation. Why she'd never spoken to him, never looked at him, never acknowledged his existence, and he'd taken bullets for her anyway. The motorcycles arrived. Sophie heard them before she saw them. That thunder she'd known since childhood. The sound of her father's world descending. Bikes poured into the parking lot. Black leather, chrome engines, hard faces. At least 15 Hells Angels, maybe more, forming a perimeter before the engines even stopped. The lid bike skidded to a halt. Her father was off it before the kickstand dropped. Marcus Stone Reyes moved like a force of nature. He was through the shattered diner window in 3 strides, glass crunching beneath his boots, his eyes scanning for threats before finding his daughter. Sophie. I'm okay. She didn't take her hands off Ethan's back. Help him. Dad, please help him. Marcus dropped to his knees beside her. His face, that granite face that never showed anything, went still as he took in the boy's injuries. 2 entry wounds, still bleeding, labored breathing going shallow. Bull. His voice cracked like a rifle shot. Get Doc Matthews on the phone. Now tell him gunshot wounds, critical condition. We're bringing him in. A massive biker was already dialing. Ghost Viper, find that SUV, find the shooters, find out who ordered this hit. Marcus's voice dropped to something worse than shouting, something quiet and final. And keep them breathing. I want names. Two bikers peeled away from the group. Marcus turned back to Sophie. What happened? I don't know, I was studying. This guy he screamed, "Get down," and tackled me. I didn't even see the gun until... Her voice broke. Dad, he saved my life. He didn't know me, didn't know anything. And I see it. Marcus looked at Ethan's pale face. Really looked. Who is he? I don't know his name. He goes to my school. He's always here in the corner doing homework. Shame flooded her voice. I never talked to him. Marcus was quiet for a moment. Bull, after you reach Doc, I want everything on this kid. School records, family, address, employment, everything. On its stone, sirens wailed in the distance, getting closer. Ambulance is 2 minutes out. Another biker reported, phone pressed to his ear. Cops right behind. Marcus nodded. We stay until he's loaded, then we follow to Detroit General. I want 2 brothers on his door around the clock until I say otherwise. Sophie's head snapped up. You're protecting him? He took bullets for my daughter. Marcus's jaw tightened. That makes him family, and family gets protected. The ambulance screamed into the parking lot. Paramedics rushed through the chaos, pushing Sophie aside despite her protests. They worked fast, IV lines, pressure bandage, urgent radio chatter about blood pressure and pulse ox and things Sophie didn't understand. We're losing him, one paramedic said. He's crashing. We need to move now. They loaded Ethan onto the stretcher. Sophie tried to follow, but her father's hand caught her arm. You're not going in the ambulance. Dad, someone just tried to kill you, Sophie. Until I know who and why, you don't leave my sight. We'll follow in the truck. You'll be there before he's out of surgery. She wanted to argue, wanted to scream, but she could see the fear behind her father's mask, the terror of a parent who'd almost lost everything. Okay, her voice was small. Okay. Marcus pulled her into a crushing hug. His leather cut was rough against her cheek. He smelled like motor oil and cigarettes and home. I almost lost you, baby. His voice cracked just barely. You didn't, because of him. Marcus pulled back. His gray eyes, her eyes studied the ambulance as it screamed away. Because of him, he repeated quietly. A boy who doesn't even know what he did. He led Sophie toward the waiting truck. Ghost was already behind the wheel. As they pulled away from the ruined diner, Sophie looked back through the rear window. At the shattered glass, the blood on the floor. The chaos of cops and bikers and terrified witnesses. A boy she didn't know had saved her life, had taken bullets meant for her heart, might be dying right now because of who her father was. Sophie clenched her blood-stained fists. She was going to find out everything about him, and she was going to make sure he survived. Because if he died for her, a stranger, a nobody, a girl who'd never even said his name, she'd never forgive herself. Ethan woke to fluorescent lights and a pain that made him wish he hadn't. His entire back felt like someone had taken a blowtorch to it. Every breath sent fire racing up his spine. His throat was sandpaper. His eyes wouldn't focus right. Hospital. He was in a hospital, that much filtered through the haze. Easy, a voice from his left. Deep, calm. Don't try to move yet. You've been out for 4 days. 4 days, Ethan turned his head slowly. Even that small movement made him want to scream. A man sat in a chair beside his bed. Massive, shaved head, arms covered in tattoos, leather vest over a black t-shirt, patches and pins scattered across the front. He looked like he could crush a car with his bare hands. Name's Bull. The man held a cup with a straw to Ethan's lips. Small sips. You're dehydrated as hell. The water tasted like heaven. Ethan drank until Bull pulled it away. Who? Ethan's voice came out as a croak. Who are you? Told you. Name's Bull. I'm with the Hells Angels. He said it casually, like announcing he worked at a grocery store. Been watching your door since they brought you in. Hells Angels. The words hit Ethan like a third bullet. Why? Bull's expression didn't change. Because you saved Sophie Reyes. And Sophie's father is Marcus Stone Reyes, vice president of this chapter. He leaned back in his chair. You took bullets for the VP's daughter, kid. That means something. Ethan's brain struggled to process this. Sophie, the girl from the diner, the girl he'd barely known, existed until a week ago. Her father was the VP of the Hells Angels. Is she? Ethan swallowed hard. Is she okay? Not a scratch. Thanks to you. Bull studied him with an intensity that felt like being X-rayed. You threw yourself on a bullets without knowing a damn thing about who she was. Why, Bamayan? Ethan had been asked this question before. He couldn't remember when. Everything was fuzzy at the edges. Saw the gun. Saw her not seeing it. Just moved. Most people freeze. Or run. Bull's voice was flat. You didn't. Didn't think about it. That's exactly my point. The door opened. Sophie Reyes walked in. She looked different from the girl in the diner. Smaller somehow. Tired. Dark circles under her gray eyes. Hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. Oversized hoodie that swallowed her frame. But she was alive. Ethan felt something loosen in his chest. You're awake. Sophie's voice was barely above a whisper. Bull texted me. I wasn't sure if you'd want. I can leave if... Stay. The word came out faster than Ethan intended. Please. Sophie's shoulders sagged with relief. She crossed to the chair on his other side and sat down, her hands twisting in her lap. For a long moment, nobody spoke. Bull stood. I'll give you two some space. I'll be right outside. He left. The silence stretched. Sophie broke first. I don't know what to say. Her voice trembled. Thank you seems pathetically inadequate for what you did. Then don't say it. How can I not? You almost died. You're lying in a hospital bed with holes in your back because of me. Her eyes glistened. I don't even know your name. Ethan Cole. Ethan, she tested the word. I'm Sophie. I know. You do, Ethan managed a weak smile. Corner booth. 2 weeks. You order salad and never eat it. Calculus homework you don't need help with. Earbuds in, world out. Sophie stared at him. You noticed all that? I notice everything. It's how I survive. But we never talked. I never even looked at you. I know that too. Sophie's face crumpled. Then why would you? Because I saw the gun, and I saw you not seeing it. Ethan held her gaze, and I couldn't let it happen. Couldn't stand there and watch you die. You don't even know me. I know you sit alone, even though you don't have to. I know you're sad about something. I know you come to a crappy diner in a bad neighborhood when you could afford anywhere. Ethan's voice softened. I know what it looks like when someone's hiding from the world, because I've been doing it my whole life. Sophie's tears spilled over. That's not a reason to take bullets for someone. Maybe not, but it happened, and I'd do it again. Sophie grabbed his hand. Her grip was fierce, almost painful. Don't say that. Don't you dare say that. You almost died, Ethan. The doctors said, her voice broke. They said you should be dead. 2 bullets, blood loss, collapsed lung. You should be dead. But I'm not. But you could have been, and I would have had to live with that, knowing some boy I never even talked to died because of me, because of my family, because of my father's... She stopped herself. Ethan waited. My father's world. Sophie's voice dropped. His world got you shot. His enemies came after me, and you got caught in the crossfire. Who are they? The shooters. Sophie's expression hardened. The grief gave way to something colder. Iron Serpents, rival gang. 3 weeks ago, they firebombed my father's clubhouse. 2 of our guys in the hospital. 1 dead. She wiped her eyes with her free hand. It's war now, and someone thought killing me would hurt my father. Would it? It would destroy him. No hesitation. I'm all he has left. My mom died when I was 6. Cancer. He's raised me alone ever since with the club as my family. She met Ethan's eyes. If I died in that diner, you didn't. Because of you, Sophie's voice rose. Because some random stranger decided my life was worth more than his own. How am I supposed to... Hey, Ethan squeezed her hand. I'm not dead. You're not dead. That's what matters. Sophie stared at him. How can you be so calm about this? Because panic doesn't help. I learned that a long time ago. Ethan's smile was tired but real. Where I come from, you don't survive by freaking out. You survive by dealing with what's in front of you. Where do you come from? Ethan was quiet for a moment. East Side, the part they tell tourists to avoid. One-bedroom apartment with my grandmother. She's got a bad heart, no insurance, and we choose between her pills and the electric bill most months. Sophie's face softened. Ethan, my dad died when I was 8, factory accident. My mom stuck around for 2 more years, then decided she'd rather disappear. His voice was matter of fact, not bitter, just true. So it's been me and my grandma ever since. Surviving, getting by. I had no idea. You weren't supposed to. Nobody was. Ethan held her gaze. Being invisible, it is how I stayed safe. How I avoided guys like Tyler Brooks, who think scholarship kids make good punching bags. How I made it through each day without becoming a target. He laughed softly. Guess that's over now. Sophie didn't laugh. My father wants to meet you when you're strong enough. I figured. He's not an easy man, Ethan. He's done things I don't want to know about. Things that would probably scare you. Sophie's grip on his hand tightened. But he's also the man who's kept me alive my whole life. And he's grateful. More grateful than you can imagine. I didn't do it for gratitude. I know. That's what makes it matter. The door opened. Bull stuck his head in. Stone's here. You ready, kid? Ethan looked at Sophie. She nodded slightly. Yeah. Ethan took a breath. Send him in. Bull disappeared. Footsteps in the hallway. Heavy, deliberate. Then Marcus Stone Reyes walked into the room. And Ethan understood immediately why they called him Stone. He wasn't tall, maybe 5'10", but he filled the doorway like a man twice his size. Broad shoulders, thick arms sleeved in faded tattoos. A face carved from granite weathered by violence and grief and years of being the kind of man other men feared. His eyes were Sophie's eyes, gray, intense, missing nothing. He wore his full leather cut, patches and pins that meant things Ethan didn't understand. VP on the front, Hell's Angels on the back. He looked at his daughter first. Sophie. Hi, Dad. Marcus crossed to her, put a hand on her shoulder, squeezed once. Then his gaze shifted to Ethan. For a long moment, he just stared. Ethan stared back. He'd learned long ago that looking away from predators was an invitation to attack. And Marcus Reyes, whatever else he was definitely a predator. So, Marcus's voice was gravel and smoke. You're the one who threw himself on bullets for my little girl. Yes, sir. Don't call me sir. I'm not military. Marcus pulled a chair closer to the bed and sat down. His presence seemed to make the room smaller. You know who I am? Bull told me, VP of the Hell's Angels, Sophie's father. Did he tell you what that means? Not really. Marcus nodded slowly. It means I've done things that would give you nightmares. Things most decent people would call evil. His expression didn't change. It also means I protect what's mine with everything I have. No limits, no mercy, no hesitation. Ethan said nothing. Sophie is mine, my blood, my only child, my entire reason for breathing. Marcus leaned forward, and you threw yourself between her and death without knowing a single thing about who she was or why someone wanted her dead. Yes. Why? The question hung in the air. Ethan thought about lying, thought about giving some humble answer about instinct or adrenaline or not thinking clearly. But something told him Marcus Reyes would smell a lie from a mile away, because it was the right thing to do. Marcus went still, then slowly a smile cracked his granite face. Most people would say they don't know, or they weren't thinking, or some bullshit about adrenaline making them act crazy. He shook his head. But you just said it was the right thing to do. Like it was obvious. Like there was no other option. There wasn't for me. For you. Marcus repeated the words like he was tasting them. I've spent my whole life surrounded by men who talk about honor and loyalty and brotherhood. And most of them mean it to a point. But when bullets start flying, when death is staring them down, a lot of those men find out what they're really made of. He held Ethan's gaze. You found out what you're made of at 17 years old, kid. And what you're made of is something I've seen maybe 3 times in 50 years. Ethan didn't know how to respond. I pulled your records. Know everything about you now. Marcus ticked off on his fingers. Father dead at 8, mother gone at 10, raised by a grandmother with a failing heart and no insurance. Scholarship kid at Lincoln High. Works odd jobs when he can find them. Lives in a shithole apartment in a neighborhood I wouldn't wish on my enemies. Ethan's jaw tightened. You've been fighting to survive your whole life, haven't you? Yes. And still with nothing to gain, everything to lose, you threw yourself on bullets for a girl you'd never spoken to. Marcus shook his head. That's either the stupidest thing I've ever heard or the most honorable. I'm still deciding which. Can it be both? Marcus laughed, a rough, genuine sound that seemed to surprise even him. Yeah, kid, I guess it can. He stood looming over Ethan's bed. Here's what's going to happen. Your hospital bills are paid. All of them. Your grandmother's medical bills, too. Ethan's eyes widened. I can't. You're not accepting charity. You're accepting compensation. Marcus's voice hardened. You bled for my daughter. You almost died for my daughter. Money can't repay that, but it's a damn good start. He reached into his cut and pulled out a thick envelope, dropped it on Ethan's bedside table. $8,000, cash, for whatever you need while you're recovering. Ethan stared at the envelope. More money than he'd ever seen in his life. When you're healed up, we're going to talk again about what comes next, about what it means to have the Hells Angels at your back. Marcus moved toward the door, then stopped. And Ethan, yeah, Marcus turned. For just a moment, the granite mask slipped. Underneath was something raw, something human. Thank you for my daughter's life. I owe you a debt I can never fully repay. Then the mask was back, and Marcus Stone Reyes walked out. Sophie let out a breath she'd apparently been holding. That went better than I expected. Ethan looked at the envelope on his bedside table, at the door where the VP of the Hells Angels had just exited, at the girl beside him whose hand was still wrapped around his. What just happened? Sophie's smile was small but real. You just became family Ethan Cole. Welcome to my world. Ethan stared at the ceiling. 4 days ago, he'd been invisible, a ghost haunting the corners of a life that didn't want him. Now he had $8,000 on his nightstand, the Hells Angels at his back, and a girl with gray eyes looking at him like he mattered. His invisible life was over. Whatever came next, he had no idea. But for the first time in 17 years, Ethan Cole wasn't facing it alone. The next morning brought pain and visitors. The pain came first. Ethan woke to fire in his back and a nurse adjusting his IV. Good morning, Mr. Cole. Her voice was professionally cheerful. Time for your medication and vitals. Ethan gritted his teeth through the examination. The bullet wounds were healing, she said. No signs of infection. Physical therapy would start in a few days. He'd be left with scars, she added, permanent ones. Ethan didn't care about scars. Scars meant he was alive. The first visitor arrived at 8 a.m. Bull walked in carrying a paper bag that smelled like heaven. Breakfast. He dropped the bag on Ethan's tray table. Real food, not that hospital crap. Ethan opened the bag. Bacon, egg, and cheese sandwich. Hash browns, orange juice. I could kiss you. Please don't. Bull settled into his usual chair. How you feeling? Like I got shot twice. Funny how that works. Bull's expression was unreadable. Stone talked to you last night. Yeah. What did you think? Ethan considered the question. I think he's the scariest person I've ever met, and I think he loves his daughter more than anything in the world. Bull nodded slowly. That's about right. Stone's been running this chapter for 20 years. I've seen him do things that would turn your hair white. But Sophie, Bull shook his head. That girl is his entire universe. Everything he's built, everything he's done, it's all for her. Why are you telling me this? Because you need to understand what you stepped into. Bull leaned forward. You saved Sophie's life. That makes you important to Stone. Important to the whole club. But it also makes you a target. Ethan's stomach tightened. The Iron Serpents. They started this war, killed one of our brothers, put 2 more into the hospital. Now they tried to take out Stone's daughter. Bull's voice was flat. They failed. Because of you. And that means they might come after you next. The room suddenly felt colder. What am I supposed to do? For now, nothing. Heal, let us handle security. Bull's jaw tightened. But when you're back on your feet, Stone's going to want to talk about your future, about what it means to be protected by the club. What does it mean? Bull was quiet for a moment. It means you're not alone anymore. It means when someone threatens you, they threaten all of us. He stopped choosing his words. It means your life is going to change, Ethan, whether you want it to or not. The door opened. An elderly woman stood in the doorway. Short, thin, white hair pinned back, faded floral dress. Ethan's heart stopped. Abuela! Ruth Cole crossed the room faster than a woman her age should have been able to move. She grabbed Ethan's face in both hands, tears streaming down her weathered cheeks. Mi niño tonto y valiente. My boy, my foolish, brave boy. Abuela, I'm okay. 4 days. She was switching between Spanish and English the way she always did when emotions ran high. 4 days you were sleeping. I thought I prayed the doctors said, I'm okay. Ethan put his hands over hers. I'm here. I'm okay. Bull had quietly moved to the door, giving them space. Ruth finally pulled back, wiping her eyes. Then she turned to Bull with a fierce expression. You are protecting my grandson. Bull nodded. Yes, ma'am, around the clock. Ruth studied him. This massive tattooed biker who could probably bench press a car. Good. She turned back to Ethan. These people, this club, they paid for everything. The hospital, the doctors, they offered to pay my medical bills too. Ethan's chest tightened. Abuela, I told them no. Ruth lifted her chin. We do not take charity. It's not charity, ma'am. Bull's voice was respectful. It's compensation. Your grandson saved someone very important to us. We take care of our own. He is not your own. He is of my own. With respect, ma'am, Bull met her eyes. After what he did, he's both. Ruth was quiet for a long moment. Then she turned to Ethan. What did you do, mi niño? What did you get yourself into? Ethan told her. All of it. The SUV, the gun, the split-second decision, the bullets. Ruth listened without interrupting. When he finished, she sat down heavily in the chair beside his bed. You almost died. But I didn't. You almost died saving a stranger. She's not a stranger anymore. Ruth shook her head. You are just like your father. Too brave for your own good. He would have done the same thing. Ethan's throat tightened. You think so? I know so. Eduardo never could stand by while someone needed help. It's why he... Ruth's voice broke. It's why he died, trying to save a coworker from a machine malfunction. They told him to wait. He didn't listen. Ethan had never known the full story of his father's death. Just that it happened at the factory. Just that it was an accident. He died being brave. He died being him. Ruth took Ethan's hand. And now you almost died being you. I don't know whether to be proud or furious. Can it be both? Ruth laughed through her tears. Just like your father, always with the smart mouth. She squeezed his hand. What happens now? Ethan looked at Bull still standing by the door. I don't know, but I don't think I have a choice. Bull shook his head slightly. We always have choices, kid. But some choices are already made by who we are. He straightened. I'll be outside. Take your time. He left. Ruth watched him go, then turned back to Ethan. These people, this club, they're dangerous. I know. No. They live in a world of violence, of things I don't understand and don't want to understand. I know. And now they've decided you belong to them. Ethan thought about it, about the bullets in his back, about Sophie's gray eyes, about Marcus Reyes and his granite face and his terrible gratitude. Maybe I do. Ruth was quiet for a long moment. I can't protect you from this, can I? You've been protecting me my whole life, Abuela. You've done enough. A grandmother never does enough. Ruth lifted his hand to her lips and kissed it. But if these people can keep you safe, if they can give you what I couldn't, Abuela, then maybe God sent them. Ruth's eyes were wet but fierce. Maybe God sent that girl across your path so you would save her. And maybe he sent her father so someone would finally save you. Ethan didn't know what to say. He'd stopped believing in God a long time ago. Hard to keep faith when you're choosing between dinner and electricity, when you're watching your grandmother struggle to breathe, when every day is just another exercise in survival. But looking at Ruth's face, at the hope and fear and love written in every wrinkle, maybe she was right. Maybe something bigger than instinct had put him in that diner at that moment. Or maybe it was just random chance. Either way, his life had changed, and there was no going back. Oh, and Sophie came that afternoon. She walked in carrying a duffel bag and looking like she'd finally slept. "Your grandmother is terrifying," she said by way of greeting. Ethan almost laughed. "You met her. She cornered me in the hallway, gave me a 20-minute lecture about taking care of her grandson and not letting your people put him in danger." Sophie dropped into the chair Ruth had vacated. "I think she threatened to curse me in Spanish at one point." "That sounds like Abuela." "I like her." Sophie's smile faded. "She loves you a lot." "She's all I've got." "Not anymore." Sophie held his gaze. "I meant what I said last night. You're family now, whether you want to be or not." Ethan looked at the duffel bag. "What's in there? Clothes, since yours got destroyed by bullets and galoshes." Sophie unzipped on the bag. "Also your homework from the past week. Mrs. Patterson insisted. And some books Bull thought you might like. And..." She pulled out a leather jacket. Black. Simple. Quality. "The club wanted you to have this. It's not a cut or anything official. Just a thank you." Ethan reached out and touched the leather. Soft. Supple. The nicest piece of clothing he'd ever held. "I can't accept this." "Too late. It's already yours." Sophie pressed the jacket into his hands. "Consider it a uniform. You're going to need it." For what? Sophie's expression was complicated, worried, hopeful, scared. "For whatever comes next." She sat back. "My dad wants you at the clubhouse when you're healed. Family dinner. Meet the rest of the brothers. See what you've gotten yourself into." "Is that a good idea? Me walking into a Hells Angels clubhouse?" "Probably not, but my dad doesn't do anything halfway. If he's decided you're family, he's going to make it official, whether you're ready or not." Ethan looked at the jacket in his hands. Leather, real leather, something the old Ethan could never have afforded. Something the invisible boy would never have been offered. But he wasn't the invisible boy anymore. He was Ethan Cole, the guy who took bullets for the VP's daughter. And apparently that changed everything. "Okay," he said quietly. Sophie blinked. "Okay. Okay, I'll come to the dinner. I'll meet the club. I'll see what I've gotten myself into." Ethan met her eyes. "But I need you to promise me something." "What?" "Don't let them turn me into something I'm not. I didn't save you to become a biker or a criminal or whatever. I saved you because it was the right thing to do. That's who I am. I don't want to lose that." Sophie reached out and took his hand. "I won't let that happen. I promise." Her grip tightened. "You saved my life, Ethan Cole. The least I can do is help you keep yours." They sat in silence for a moment. Then Sophie smiled. "Besides, I kind of like who you are. It would be a shame to change it." Ethan felt warmth spread through his chest that had nothing to do with the pain medication. Yeah. Sophie squeezed his hand. "Now put on the jacket. I want to see if it fits." It fit perfectly. And when Ethan caught his reflection in the window leather jacket over hospital gown bandages, still visible but something different in his eyes, he barely recognized himself. The invisible boy was gone. Someone else was taking his place. Someone who mattered. Someone who belonged. Ethan Cole left Detroit General Hospital on a Tuesday morning, 7 days after taking 2 bullets for a girl he didn't know. Bull drove. A black F-250 with tinted windows and the Hells Angels logo airbrushed on the tailgate so subtly you'd miss it unless you knew what to look for. 2 motorcycles flanked them. Escort, protection, a reminder that Ethan's invisible life was over. "You nervous?" Bull glanced at him from the driver's seat. "Should I be?" "Probably." Bull's smile was grim. "You're about to walk back into the world that tried to kill you. Different school, different neighborhood, but the same enemies." Ethan touched his chest, feeling the bandages beneath his shirt. The wounds had closed, but they still ached. Probably always would. The iron serpents. "They're still out there. We hit them hard after the shooting. Took out the guys who pulled the trigger. But the snakes got more than one head." Bull's hands tightened on the steering wheel. "Their leader, Danny Vance, they call him Cobra, He's gone underground. We've been hunting him for 2 weeks. Nothing. You think he'll come after me? Honestly, probably not. You're small fish. Taking out Stone's daughter would have been a statement. Taking out some random kid who got in the way. Bull shook his head. Not worth the heat. But Cobra's unpredictable, and you embarrassed him. His guys failed because of you. Some men can't let that go. Ethan stared out the window. Familiar streets. Familiar poverty. Crumbling buildings and barred windows, and people who'd learned to keep their heads down. Home. What's the plan? For today we take you to your grandmother's place. You rest. Tomorrow, you go back to school. Bull paused. With protection. Protection. Prospects. They'll look like students, but they'll be watching, making sure nobody gets close who shouldn't. Ethan's jaw tightened. I don't want to bring this into my school, into my grandmother's life. Too late for that. Bull's voice wasn't unkind, but it was firm. The minute you threw yourself on those bullets, you became part of this, part of us. That means our enemies are your enemies, and our protection is your protection. They pulled up to Ethan's apartment building. Same crumbling brick, same rusted fire escape, same broken front door that never locked properly. But now 2 motorcycles idled at the curb. Now neighbors were peeking through curtains wondering what the hell was happening. Word's going to spread, Ethan said quietly. Already has. Bull killed the engine. By tonight, everyone in this neighborhood will know the Hells Angels have an interest in Ethan Cole. That's not a bad thing. Why not? Because it means anyone who thinks about messing with you will think twice, 3 times, and then decide it's not worth dying over. Bull got out and circled the truck to open Ethan's door. You need help getting up the stairs. I can manage. Stubborn. Bull's expression softened slightly. Just like Stone said you'd be. The apartment was exactly as Ethan remembered. Small, cramped, smelling of his grandmother's cooking and the lavender sachets she put in every drawer. But Ruth was different. She stood straighter, moved easier. The lines of worry that had carved themselves into her face over years of struggle seemed somehow lighter. Mi niño. She pulled Ethan into a careful hug, mindful of his injuries. Welcome home. Abuela. Ethan breathed in her familiar scent. I missed you. 7 days. Ruth pulled back, her eyes wet. 7 days I sat by your bed praying, watching machines breathe for you. I'm sorry. Don't be sorry. Be careful. She led him to the couch, a new couch, Ethan realized. Nicer than anything they had ever owned. Sit, rest. I made pozole. Ethan looked around the apartment. New couch, new TV. The water stain on the ceiling was gone, the plaster repaired and painted. The window that had been cracked for 2 years was replaced. Abuela, what happened here? Ruth's expression complicated. The men from the club, they came while you were in the hospital. Fixed things, brought things. She gestured at the apartment. I told them no. They didn't listen. Stone's orders. The big one, Bull, he said it was already decided. That you were family now, and family doesn't live in, Ruth paused, remembering the exact words. In a place where the ceiling leaks and the heat doesn't work. Ethan's throat tightened. He'd spent years watching his grandmother struggle, watching her choose between food and medicine, watching her work herself to exhaustion, trying to keep them afloat. And in 7 days, the Hells Angels had done more for her than he'd managed in 17 years. I don't know how to feel about this, he admitted. Neither do I. Ruth sat beside him, taking his hand. These people, they were dangerous, I know that, but they're also grateful. And gratitude, in my experience, is not a bad foundation. For whatever comes next. Ruth squeezed his hand. Now eat your pozole. You're too skinny. The next morning, Ethan returned to Lincoln High School. He'd expected stares, whispers, the usual background noise of high school gossip amplified by the fact that he'd been shot, protecting a girl nobody knew. He wasn't prepared for what actually happened. The moment he walked through the front doors, conversation stopped. Heads turned. A wave of silence spread through the hallway like ripples in a pond. Then someone started clapping. One person, then 2, then a dozen. By the time Ethan reached his locker, half the hallway was applauding. He wanted to disappear, wanted to find the nearest bathroom stall and hide until everyone forgot he existed, but he couldn't disappear anymore. Sophie was waiting by his locker. "Hey, hero." Her smile was warm but worried. "How you holding up?" "This is weird." "Yeah, well, get used to it." She fell into step beside him. The story spread. Not the real story, nobody knows about my dad or the club. But everyone knows you threw yourself on bullets to save a girl. That makes you a legend. "I don't want to be a legend." "Too bad." Sophie squeezed his arm. "You're stuck with it." They walked to first period together. More stares, more whispers. A few people called out, "Hey, Ethan. Good to see you back, man. You're a badass, Cole." People who'd never acknowledged his existence before. People who'd walked past him for years like he was furniture. "This is surreal," Ethan muttered. "Welcome to my world." Sophie's voice was dry. Being noticed isn't always a good thing. They reached the classroom. Mr. Patterson, AP Calculus, looked up as they entered. "Mr. Cole?" His voice was surprisingly warm. "Glad to have you back. Take your time getting settled. The class can wait." More weirdness. Mr. Patterson was notoriously strict. He didn't wait for anyone. Ethan slid into his usual seat at the back. Sophie sat beside him, something she'd never done before the shooting. "Everyone's staring," Ethan whispered. "Let them." Sophie pulled out her textbook. "They'll get bored eventually." They didn't get bored. By lunch, Ethan had been stopped 17 times. Students he'd never spoken to, teachers he'd never had. Even the school secretary who'd looked through him for 3 years stopped to tell him how brave he was. He ate lunch in the cafeteria for the first time ever, with Sophie, at a table where everyone could see. "You're going to have to get used to this," Sophie said, picking at her salad. "Being visible. I've been invisible my whole life. It's kind of my thing." "Was your thing?" Sophie met his eyes. "That person doesn't exist anymore. The shooting killed him. What's left is this, whoever you're becoming." "And who's that?" "I don't know yet." Sophie's smile was small but real. "But I'm looking forward to finding out." The cafeteria doors banged open. Tyler Brooks walked in, 6'2", 200 pounds of muscle and entitlement, quarterback of the football team, king of Lincoln High, and Ethan's tormentor for the past 3 years. Tyler spotted them immediately. His eyes narrowed. His jaw tightened. He started walking toward their table. "Ignore him," Sophie murmured. "He's not worth it. He's coming over here." "Then let him come. He can't do anything." Tyler stopped at their table. His football cronies fanned out behind him, Derek, Marcus, Jason. The usual crew. "Cole," Tyler's voice was flat. "Heard you got shot." Ethan met his eyes, didn't look away. "Heard right." "Also heard you're some kind of hero now." Tyler's lip curled. "Funny how getting shot makes people forget what a loser you are." "Tyler," Sophie's voice was ice. "Walk away." "I'm not talking to you, sweetheart." "Don't call me sweetheart." Tyler ignored her. His focus stayed on Ethan. "You think this changes anything? You think getting shot makes you matter?" He leaned in close. "You're still the same pathetic scholarship kid. Still nobody. Still nothing." Ethan's hands tightened under the table. The old Ethan would have looked away, would have taken it, would have waited for Tyler to get bored and leave. But the old Ethan had died in that diner. "You done?" Ethan's voice was calm, steady. Tyler blinked. "What?" "I asked if you're done because I've got better things to do than listen to you prove how insecure you are." The cafeteria went dead silent. Tyler's face reddened, his hands balled into fists. "What did you just say to me? You heard me?" Ethan stood slowly, ignoring the pull of his healing wounds. "I've spent 3 years letting you push me around because I didn't have a choice, because fighting back meant more pain than staying invisible. But here's the thing, Tyler." Ethan stepped closer, close enough to see the uncertainty flickering in Tyler's eyes. "I took 2 bullets 2 weeks ago. Bullets from real guns, and I survived. So whatever you think you can do to me," Ethan's smile was cold, "it doesn't even register." Tyler's cronies shifted uncomfortably. The whole cafeteria was watching. Tyler's reputation hung in the balance. "Walk away," and he looked weak. escalate, and he was the guy who beat up the kid who got shot saving a girl. This isn't over, Tyler growled. Yeah, it is. Ethan sat back down. But I understand if you need to tell yourself otherwise. Tyler stood there for a long moment, muscles tensed, jaw working. Then he turned and walked away. His cronies followed, shooting confused glances back at Ethan. The cafeteria erupted in whispers. Sophie stared at him. Holy shit. What? I've never seen you do that. Stand up to anyone. Yeah, ever. Ethan's hands were shaking under the table. Adrenaline, fear, something else. Neither have I. How does it feel? Ethan thought about it. Terrifying, but good. He met Sophie's eyes. Is this what being visible feels like, fighting instead of hiding? Sometimes. Sophie reached across the table and took his hand. Welcome to the other side. They were halfway through fifth period when Ethan's phone buzzed. New phone. The one Bull had given him. Untraceable, Bull said. Secure. The text was from an unknown number. Clubhouse tonight, 7 p.m., family dinner. Don't be late, Stone Ethan showed Sophie. You ready for this? She asked. No. Good answer. Sophie squeezed his hand. I'll pick you up at 6:30. The Hells Angels clubhouse sat on the outskirts of Detroit, an industrial area, abandoned factories. The kind of place where screams wouldn't attract attention. Sophie drove, a black sedan that looked ordinary but handled like a race car. Armored, she explained when Ethan asked. Bulletproof glass, run-flat tires. My dad doesn't take chances. With you, with anything, and they turned down a gravel road, chain-link fence topped with razor wire, guard booth with two men who waved Sophie through without checking. And then Ethan saw it, the clubhouse. It wasn't what he expected. He'd imagined something dark and sinister, a den of criminals, a fortress of violence. Instead, it looked almost normal. A large building that might have been a warehouse once, motorcycles parked in neat rows, picnic tables scattered across a grassy area, smoke rising from a massive grill, people everywhere, men in leather cuts, women in casual clothes, kids running around playing tag. It looked like a family barbecue. Surprised, Sophie parked the car. Yeah, most people are. She killed the engine. My dad says the club is like any family. We fight, we argue, we do things outsiders wouldn't understand. But at the end of the day, we take care of each other. They got out, heads turned, conversations paused. Everyone was looking at him. Then Bull appeared, grinning widely. There he is, the man of the hour. Bull grabbed Ethan's hand and shook it vigorously. Good to see you on your feet, kid. Thanks, Bull. Come on, Stone's waiting. And trust me, you don't want to keep Stone waiting. Bull led them through the crowd. People nodded at Ethan, slapped his shoulder, said things like good to meet you and welcome, brother, and hell of a thing you did. Brother, the word hit Ethan somewhere deep. He'd never had a brother, never had a father really, never had anyone except his grandmother. And now these strangers were calling him family. They reached the main building. Bull pushed open the door. Inside was a large common room, bar along one wall, pool tables, leather couches. The Hells Angels logo painted across the back wall in vivid colors. Marcus Stone Reyes stood by the bar. He wore his full cut, patches gleaming, presence filling the room. Beside him stood another man, older, silver hair, eyes that had seen everything and judged most of it wanting. Ethan, Stone's voice was gravel. Glad you could make it. Thank you for inviting me. Not an invitation, a summons. Stone's expression was unreadable. When the VP calls you come, that's how this works. Ethan's spine stiffened. Dad, Sophie's voice held warning. It's fine. Ethan met Stone's eyes. I understand. Your house, your rules. Stone studied him for a long moment. Then he smiled, just barely, just enough. Good, you're learning. He gestured to the silver-haired man beside him. This is Ghost, president of the Detroit chapter. My boss. Ghost extended a weathered hand. So you're the kid who took bullets for Stone's daughter? Yes, sir. Don't call me sir. Save that for people who deserve it. Ghost's grip was surprisingly strong. I've been hearing about you all week. Stone won't shut up about it. I just did what anyone would do. No, Ghost's voice sharpened. You did what almost nobody would do. That's why you're here. He released Ethan's hand and stepped back. Tonight you're our guest. Eat. Drink root beer, not the hard stuff. Meet the brothers. Let them see the kid who earned Stone's debt. And after tonight, Ghost and Stone exchanged glances. After tonight, Stone said slowly, we talk about your future, what it means to have the Hell's Angels at your back, what we expect, what we offer. And if I don't want any of it, the room went quiet. Stone's expression didn't change. Then you walk away. No hard feelings. The debt still stands. The protection still stands. But you don't become part of this family. And if I do want it, then we figure out what that looks like. Stone's eyes bored into him. But understand this, Ethan. Once you're in, you're in. We don't do halfway. We don't do temporary. Brotherhood is forever. Ethan thought about his life before the shooting. The invisibility, the loneliness, the constant struggle just to survive. Then he thought about the past 2 weeks, the protection, the belonging, the people who looked at him like he mattered. I want to hear more, Ethan said carefully. I'm not saying yes, but I'm not saying no. Stone nodded slowly. Fair enough. That's all we ask. He clapped Ethan on the shoulder. Now come on, Bull's been manning the grill, and if you don't eat some ribs, he'll be heartbroken. The barbecue was surreal. Ethan moved through the crowd like a visitor from another planet. Bikers who looked like they could kill without blinking handed him plates of food and asked about his recovery. Women who he assumed were old ladies told him how brave he was and how proud the club was to know him. And everywhere Sophie was at his side. You're doing great, she murmured between introductions. I feel like I'm dreaming. Get used to it. This is your life now. Is it I haven't decided anything? Doesn't matter. Sophie's smile was knowing. The club's already decided. They've adopted you. The only question is how official you want to make it. They found a quiet spot near the back of the property, a picnic table under a tree away from the noise. Can I ask you something? Ethan kept his voice low. Anything. Why do you stay with the club, I mean? You could walk away, go to college somewhere far away, have a normal life. Sophie was quiet for a moment. Because they're my family, not by choice but by blood and experience, and 1,000 moments that shaped who I am. She looked at him. My mom died when I was 6. These people, Bull, Ghost, Viper, all of them, they helped raise me. They're my uncles, my protectors, my history. Even with everything that comes with it, the danger, the violence. Even with that, Sophie's jaw tightened. I'm not naive, Ethan. I know what my father does, what the club does. I've seen things that would give you nightmares. But I've also seen loyalty that most people can't even imagine. Love that would die for you without thinking. She met his eyes. Sound familiar? Ethan thought about the diner, about throwing himself towards Sophie without hesitation. Yeah, it does. That's why you belong here, whether you realize it yet or not. Sophie took his hand. You're one of us, Ethan Cole. You have been since the moment you decided my life was worth more than yours. Before Ethan could respond, a roar went up from the main gathering. They turned to see Stone climbing onto a table, a beer raised high. Brothers, sisters, shut the hell up for a minute. The crowd laughed and quieted. Tonight we've got a guest. Some of you have met him. Most of you have heard about him. Stone's eyes found Ethan across the distance. 2 weeks ago, this kid, Ethan Cole, threw himself on bullets meant for my daughter. Took 2 rounds in the back, almost died. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. He didn't know who Sophie was, didn't know who I was, didn't know anything about the club or the war or why someone wanted her dead. He just saw a gun and a girl and he moved. Stone's voice hardened. That's not bravery. That's something else, something rare, something most of us spend our whole lives pretending we have, but never really prove. He raised his beer higher. To Ethan Cole, friend of the club, protector of my daughter, a man of honor even if he doesn't know it yet. To Ethan Cole, the crowd roared. Ethan felt his face flush, felt Sophie squeeze his hand, felt something shift inside him, some wall that had been crumbling since the shooting finally giving way. These people didn't know him, didn't owe him anything, but they were raising glasses in his honor, welcoming him like he belonged. Maybe he did. After the toast, Stone made his way over. "Walk with me." It wasn't a request. They walked to the edge of the property, away from the noise and light. The night sky stretched above them, stars visible despite the city glow. "You impressed them," Stone said. "Not easy to do." "I didn't do anything impressive, I just stood there." That's what makes it impressive. Most people can't handle attention. They shrink from it or puff up trying to deserve it. You just accepted it, like it was nothing special. Because it isn't, not to me. Stone stopped walking, turned to face him. "Why did you really do it, Ethan, in the diner? Why did you jump?" "I told you it was the right thing to do." "That's not an answer, that's an excuse." Stone's eyes were hard. People don't throw themselves on bullets because it's the right thing. They throw themselves on bullets because something inside them makes them. Something deeper than thought or choice. Ethan was quiet for a long moment. "When I was 8, my dad died. Factory accident. He was trying to save a coworker whose hand got caught in a machine. Everyone else ran to get help. My dad just moved, grabbed the guy, pulled him free." Ethan's voice was barely above a whisper. "The machine caught my dad instead, crushed his chest. He died before the ambulance arrived." Stone said nothing, just listened. "My grandmother told me later that he didn't even hesitate, didn't think about the danger, just saw someone who needed help and acted." Ethan met Stone's eyes. "When I saw that gun pointed at Sophie, I didn't think about my dad, didn't think about anything. But maybe that's what I am. What he made me. Someone who moves first and thinks later." Stone was silent for a long time. Then he put a hand on Ethan's shoulder. "Your father was a good man. He was the best man I ever knew. And you're his son, through and through." Stone's grip tightened. That kind of courage, that instinct to protect it, can't be taught. It can't be bought. It's just there or it isn't. He released Ethan's shoulder. "I've been doing this for 30 years, Ethan. Building the club, protecting my family. I've met maybe 5 people with what you have. Real honor, real courage, the kind that doesn't think about survival." "Is that a compliment?" "It's a fact." Stone's expression was unreadable. "The question is what you do with it. You can walk away from here tonight and live a normal life. Go to college, get a job, pretend the last 2 weeks never happened. Or you can acknowledge what you are, join a brotherhood that values what you have. Use that courage for something bigger than yourself." "You mean join the club?" "Eventually, if that's what you want. For now, I'm offering something simpler." Stone reached into his cut and pulled out a leather vest. Not a full cut, something simpler. Black leather, no patches, no insignia. "Wear this and everyone who matters will know you're under our protection, that you're connected to us. It's not membership. It's not commitment. It's just recognition." Ethan took the vest. The leather was soft, well-worn, lighter than he expected. "What if I'm not ready for this?" "Then you say no. Keep the vest anyway. The offer stands whenever you want it." Stone's smile was thin. "But I don't think you'll say no. I think you've been waiting your whole life for someone to see you. Really see you, and tonight everyone here did." Ethan looked down at the vest in his hands. His whole life he'd been invisible. A ghost moving through a world that didn't notice he existed. But in that diner he'd become visible, and there was no going back. "I'll wear it," Ethan said quietly. Stone nodded. "Just once." "Good. Welcome to the family, Ethan Cole." They walked back toward the light and noise together. Sophie was waiting at the edge of the crowd, her expression anxious. She saw the vest in Ethan's hands. Her eyes widened. "Dad, is that?" "It's done." Stone kissed her forehead. "Take care of your hero. I've got business to handle." He disappeared into the crowd. Sophie grabbed Ethan's arm. "Put it on. I want to see." Ethan slipped the vest over his leather jacket. It fit perfectly. Like it had been made for him. Sophie's breath caught. "Oh my God. What? You look like you belong here." Her eyes were bright with something Ethan couldn't name. "You look like one of us." "Is that a good thing?" "It's the best thing." Sophie grabbed his face and kissed him. It was quick, fierce, unexpected. When she pulled back, they were both breathing hard. Sorry. Sophie's cheeks were flushed. I've been wanting to do that since you woke up in the hospital. Don't apologize. Are you mad? Do I look mad? Sophie laughed, a bright surprise sound. No, you look happy. Ethan touched his lips, still tingling. I think I am happy. He shook his head in wonder. I don't remember the last time I felt this way. Get used to it. Sophie took his hand. This is your life now. Happiness, belonging, family. And you, Sophie's smile softened. I'm part of the package. They stood together at the edge of the gathering, Ethan in his new vest, Sophie's hand warm in his. Behind them, the club celebrated. Laughter and music and the rumble of motorcycle engines. Ahead, the future stretched unknown and terrifying and full of possibility. Ethan Cole had spent 17 years being invisible. Tonight he'd been seen, and nothing would ever be the same. The kiss changed everything. Ethan couldn't stop thinking about it. The way Sophie's lips had felt against his. The fire in her eyes when she pulled back. The words she'd said afterward. I'm part of the package. 3 days had passed since the barbecue. 3 days of wearing his new vest under his jacket at school. 3 days of Sophie holding his hand in the hallways like it was the most natural thing in the world. 3 days of feeling like he actually belonged somewhere, Sam. You're distracted. Bull's voice cut through his thoughts. They were in the garage behind the clubhouse. Bull had insisted on teaching Ethan basic motorcycle maintenance. Said every man connected to the club should know how to keep a bike running. Sorry. Ethan refocused on the engine in front of him. What were you saying? I was saying you need to check the oil level before you start tearing things apart. Bull wiped his hands on a rag. But you're too busy thinking about Stone's daughter to pay attention. Ethan's face heated. I wasn't. Kid, I've been around long enough to recognize that look. You've got it, Bing. Bull's grin was knowing. Can't blame you. Sophie's something special. But you need to be careful. Careful how Stone's protective, more than protective. The last guy who looked at Sophie wrong ended up in the hospital for 3 weeks. Bull's expression sobered, and that was just for looking. We haven't. I know, but you will. And when you do, Stone will know. He knows everything that happens around his daughter. Bull leaned against the workbench. I'm not telling you to stay away from her. That ship sailed. I'm telling you to be smart. Respect her. Treat her right. Because if you don't, I know, I answer to Stone. You answer to all of us. Bull's voice was serious. Sophie's the club's princess. We all love her. We all protect her. You hurt her, you don't just deal with Stone. You deal with every brother who's watched her grow up. Ethan met Bull's eyes. I would never hurt her. I believe you. That's why I'm having this conversation instead of just warning you off. Bull clapped him on the shoulder. Now pay attention. This carburetor isn't going to clean itself. They worked in silence for a while. Ethan found the mechanical work soothing, something concrete, something he could understand and control, unlike everything else in his life. Can I ask you something? Ethan kept his eyes on the engine. Shoot. The iron serpents. Cobra. What's the real story? Bull's hands stilled. That's club business. I got shot because of club business. I think I deserve to know. Bull was quiet for a long moment. Fair point. He set down his tools. The serpents and the angels have history. Goes back decades. Territory disputes, drug trade, the usual bullshit. For a while we had a truce. Live and let live. What changed? Cobra happened. Bull's voice hardened. Danny Vance, young guy, ambitious, took over the Serpents about 2 years ago after the old boss had an unfortunate accident. Accident, the kind that involves a bullet in a shallow grave. Bull shrugged. Nobody shed tears. The old boss was a piece of shit. But Cobra's worse. He's smart, patient, and he's got a vision. What kind of vision? Taking over everything. Not just the Serpent's territory, ours too. The whole city. Bull's jaw tightened. 3 weeks before you got shot, he made his move. Firebombed our clubhouse, killed 1 brother, put 2 more in the hospital. Ethan remembered Sophie telling him about this, the war that had started. Why Sophie? Why go after Stone's daughter? Because Stone is the club's enforcer. He's the one who hits back. Cobra figured if he took Sophie out, Stone would fall apart. And without Stone, the club's vulnerable. That's why she was hiding at Lincoln High. That's why she was hiding everywhere. New school, fake name, prospects watching her around the clock. Bull's expression was grim. And it still wasn't enough. Cobra found her anyway. How? We don't know. That's what's been keeping Stone up at night. Someone talked. Someone told the serpents where Sophie was. Bull met Ethan's eyes. There's a rat in the club, and until we find them, nobody's safe. The words hit Ethan like a punch to the gut. A rat, a traitor, someone inside the club feeding information to the enemy. Does Sophie know? She knows, we all know, but knowing and proving are different things. Bull picked up his tools again. That's why Stone's been so careful. That's why you've got prospects following you. We don't know who to trust anymore. But you trust me? Bull laughed, a harsh, humorless sound. Kid, you took bullets for Sophie without knowing a damn thing about any of this. If you were a rat, you'd be the worst rat in history. His expression softened slightly. Yeah, we trust you, more than most. They finished the lesson in silence. When Ethan left the clubhouse that evening, his mind was churning. A rat in the club. Cobra still out there. Sophie in danger, and him right in the middle of it all. Sophie picked him up outside his apartment building the next morning. You look terrible. She studied his face as he climbed into the passenger seat. Didn't sleep. Not much. Thinking about what Bull told you, Ethan looked at her sharply. How did you? My dad tells me everything, eventually. Sophie pulled away from the curb. He said Bull gave you the full briefing. Cobra, the rat, all of it. Well, why didn't you tell me? Because you had enough to deal with. Getting shot, recovery, adjusting to the club. Sophie's hands tightened on the steering wheel. I didn't want to pile more on top of it. So you kept me in the dark. I kept you safe. That's not your call to make. Sophie's jaw tightened. Actually, it is. You're in this because of me. Because you saved my life. The least I can do is protect you from the worst of it. I don't need protection. I need the truth. You have the truth now. After Bull told me. Not after you told me. Ethan's voice was harder than he intended. If we're going to be whatever we are, I need you to be honest with me. Even when it's ugly. Especially when it's ugly. Sophie was quiet for a long moment. You're right. Her voice was small. I'm sorry, I'm not used to this. Having someone who isn't club. Having someone who isn't already neck deep in all of it. I am neck deep. I just didn't know how deep until yesterday. I know, and I should have told you. Sophie reached over and took his hand. No more secrets, I promise. Ethan squeezed her fingers. No more secrets. They drove to school in comfortable silence, but the tension in Ethan's chest didn't ease. A rat, a traitor, someone he might have met at the barbecue, someone who'd smiled at him and called him brother while secretly feeding information to the enemy. The thought made his skin crawl. School was almost normal. Almost. The stares had faded somewhat. The whispers had died down. Ethan was still a curiosity, but he was no longer breaking news. Tyler Brooks had been suspiciously absent since their confrontation in the cafeteria. Ethan had heard rumors, something about Tyler's father getting an unexpected visit from some very intimidating men on motorcycles. He didn't ask for details, but third period brought a surprise. Ethan was walking to his English class when he felt eyes on him. Not the usual curious glances. Something sharper. More focused. He turned. A man stood at the end of the hallway, mid-30s, lean build, dark hair slicked back, wearing clothes that didn't quite fit, too nice for this neighborhood, too casual for a teacher. He was staring directly at Ethan. Their eyes met. The man smiled. A cold, knowing smile that made Ethan's blood freeze. Then he turned and walked away, disappearing around the corner. Ethan's heart hammered. He didn't recognize the man, had never seen him before. But something about that smile. He pulled out his phone and texted Sophie. Strange guy in the hallway, never seen him before. Watching me. Her response came immediately. Where are you? Don't move. Outside room 217. Stay there, I'm coming. Sophie arrived 90 seconds later, slightly out of breath. Where did he go? Around the corner, toward the east exit. What did he look like? Ethan described the man. Dark hair, lean build, cold smile. Sophie's face went pale. Oh God. Who is he? I think, Sophie's voice shook. I think that was Marcus Rivera, one of Cobra's lieutenants. The blood drained from Ethan's face. Cobra's guy here at school. We need to call my dad, now. She was already dialing. Stone arrived in 15 minutes. Not alone. He brought Bull Viper and 2 prospects Ethan didn't recognize. They swept through the school like a tactical team, checking exits, questioning witnesses, reviewing security footage. The man was gone. He knew exactly where the cameras were. Viper's voice was tight. Avoided every single one. We've got nothing. Stone's expression was granite. He wanted to be seen, wanted us to know he could get close. It's a message, Bull said grimly. Cobra's telling us he can reach anyone, anywhere. He's telling me specifically. Stone's eyes found Ethan. Rivera was watching you, not Sophie, you. Ethan's stomach dropped. Why me? Because you ruined their plan. You stopped the hit on Sophie. Now you're on their radar. Stone's jaw tightened. Cobra doesn't forget, and he doesn't forgive. So what do? We increase security, more prospects, more eyes. You don't go anywhere alone. Stone's voice brooked no argument. And we hunt. Rivera showing his face means Cobra's getting bold. That's a mistake. One we're going to make him regret. School was canceled for Ethan that day. Stone drove him to the clubhouse personally. Sophie sat in the back seat, her hand wrapped around his, her face pale with fear. This is my fault, she whispered. If you hadn't saved me, then you'd be dead. Ethan's voice was firm. I'd make the same choice 1,000 times, even knowing what it would cost you. Sophie. Ethan turned to face her. Before the shooting, I had nothing. An invisible life, a grandmother who was dying slowly while I watched. No future, no hope, nothing. He squeezed her hand. Now I have a family. I have people who care about me. I have you. His smile was small but real. Whatever comes next, it's worth it. All of it. Sophie's eyes glistened. How are you so calm about this? I'm not calm, I'm terrified. Ethan laughed softly. But I've been scared my whole life. At least now I'm scared of something that matters. The clubhouse was on high alert. Extra guards at the gate, brothers patrolling the perimeter. An atmosphere of tension that crackled like electricity. Ghost called an emergency meeting. All patch members gathered in the main hall. Ethan wasn't allowed inside, not a full member, not his place, but Stone insisted he stay close. You're part of this now, Stone said. You deserve to know what's happening. Ethan waited outside with Sophie. They sat on a bench near the door close enough to hear raised voices, but not the words. The meeting lasted 2 hours. When the doors finally opened, Stone's face was thunderous. We're going hunting tonight. Full strength. Cobra's pushed too far. It ends now. What about Ethan? Sophie asked. He stays here? Under guard. No arguments. Stone's eyes met Ethan's. This is club business. Real club business. The kind where people don't come back. I understand. Do you tell? Stone stepped closer. Because if you're going to be part of this family, you need to understand what that means. We're not Boy Scouts. We don't play nice. When someone threatens ours, we eliminate the threat. Permanently. Ethan held his gaze. I know what you are. What the club is. I'm not naive. No, you're not. Stone's expression softened fractionally. Stay with Sophie. Keep her safe. That's your job tonight. I will. Stone nodded once, then moved away to organize the assault. Sophie grabbed Ethan's arm as the brothers mounted their bikes. Be careful, she called to her father. Stone looked back. For just a moment, the granite mask cracked. Underneath was fear, love, the desperate hope of a father who might not come home. Always, baby, always. The motorcycles roared out of the compound. Ethan and Sophie stood in the sudden silence, watching the taillights disappear into the darkness. I hate this part, Sophie whispered. The waiting, not knowing. How many times have you done this? More than I can count, since I was old enough to understand what my dad really does. Sophie hugged herself. It never gets easier. You just get better at hiding how scared you are. What if something happens to him? Sophie didn't answer. She didn't have to. They waited in the common room. Other old ladies were there too, wives and girlfriends of the men who'd ridden out. Everyone pretending to be calm, everyone failing. Hours passed. Ethan's phone buzzed at 2 a.m. A text from Bull. We found them. Coming home. Casualties. Sophie saw his face. What? What is it? Ethan showed her the text. Her face went white. Casualties. That could mean anything. It could. It could mean my dad. Ethan took her hand. Let's not assume the worst. But his own heart was hammering. His own fear was rising. The motorcycles returned at 2:47 a.m. Fewer than had left. Ethan counted quickly. 3 missing. Maybe 4. Sophie was out the door before he could stop her, running toward the bike, searching for her father's face. Stone was there. Bloody, battered, but alive. Sophie threw herself into his arms, sobbing. I'm okay, baby. I'm okay. Stone held her tight, his own eyes wet. It's over. Cobra's done. Done. We found their hideout, took it down. Stone's voice was grim. Cobra's dead, shot trying to escape. Rivera, too. Relief flooded through Ethan, but it was short-lived, because Bull was being helped off his bike by 2 other brothers. His left arm hung at a wrong angle, blood soaked his shirt, and behind him a covered body was being unloaded from a van. Who? Ethan's voice was hoarse. Stone's expression darkened. Reaper. Caught a bullet meant for me. His jaw tightened. He died saving my life. The weight of the words settled over the compound. Reaper. Ethan had met him at the barbecue, a quiet man with sad eyes and a gentle voice. He'd told Ethan about his daughter, about how he joined the club to give her a better life. Now he was dead. This is the count, Stone said via voice carrying to everyone gathered. This is what brotherhood means. We ride together, we fight together, and sometimes we die together. He released Sophie and walked toward the covered body. Tonight we lost a brother, a good man, a father. Stone's voice cracked slightly. Tomorrow we mourn, we honor, we remember. But tonight we're grateful because the snake is dead and our family is safe. The compound erupted in cheers, but they were hollow cheers, grieving cheers, the sound of people who'd won but paid too high a price. Ethan stood apart from the celebrations. Sophie pressed against his side. This is what you're signing up for, Sophie whispered. This is what it means to be one of us. People die, people you love, and you keep going anyway. Ethan looked at Reaper's covered body. Can I handle it? He asked the question to himself as much as to her. I don't know. Can you? Ethan thought about his father, about the man who died saving a coworker he barely knew, about the courage that couldn't be taught, only inherited. I don't have a choice, he said finally. I'm already in. Sophie looked up at him. Yeah, you are. She kissed him softly, gently, a promise and a warning all at once. Around them, the club grieved and celebrated in equal measure. And Ethan Cole, once invisible, now marked by violence and loss and love, held the girl who'd changed his life and wondered what tomorrow would bring. Whatever it was, he'd face it. He didn't know how to do anything else. The funeral was 3 days later. Full club honors. Every chapter in the state sent representatives. Hundreds of motorcycles lined the streets, their engines silent, their riders in black. Ethan stood near the back, Sophie at his side. He wasn't family, wasn't a patched member. But Stone had insisted he attend. You're one of us now, Stone had said. That means you honor our dead. Reaper's daughter stood at the graveside, 12 years old, brown hair, eyes red from crying. She looked so small next to the flag-draped casket. Ghost gave the eulogy. David Martinez was a brother, a father, and a friend. He rode with us for 15 years. Never complained, never wavered. When the bullets started flying, he didn't run. He ran toward them. Ghost's voice hardened. 3 nights ago, David took a bullet meant for our VP. He didn't hesitate, didn't think about himself. Just moved, just acted, just died doing what he'd always done, protecting his family. Ethan felt the words like a punch. That's what I did, he thought. That's what my father did. David used to say that courage wasn't about being fearless. It was about being scared and doing the right thing anyway. Ghost looked at Reaper's daughter. Maria, your father was the bravest man I ever knew, and I promise you that as long as this club exists, you will never be alone. The little girl nodded. Tears streamed down her face. The casket was lowered. Brothers threw handfuls of dirt. Engines roared in tribute. And Ethan Cole stood among the mourners, understanding for the first time what he'd truly become part of. After the funeral, Stone found him. Walk with me. They moved away from the crowd toward a quiet spot under an oak tree. You've been quiet today, Stone observed, thinking about Reaper, about all of it. Ethan met Stone's eyes, about what it means to be part of this, the price. Having second thoughts, Ethan was quiet for a moment. No, but I'm not naive anymore either. I know what I'm signing up for now. Really know. And I'm still here. Stone studied him for a long moment. Good. He reached into his cut and pulled out something small, metal, heavy, a ring. This was Reaper's. He gave it to me the night he died, told me to give it to someone worthy. Stone pressed the ring into Ethan's palm. He meant you. Ethan stared at the ring. Silver, simple, engraved with the club's logo. I can't take this. You can. You will. Stone's voice was firm. David saw something in you at the barbecue. He told me about it. Said you reminded him of himself when he was young. Shared but brave. Alone but loyal. Ethan's throat tightened. I barely knew him. Doesn't matter. He knew you. He saw what you are. Stone closed Ethan's fingers around the ring. Wear it. Honor his memory. And when the time comes, pass it on to someone worthy. Ethan slipped the ring onto his finger. It fit perfectly. Thank you, he whispered. Don't thank me. Thank David. And earn it. Stone's expression hardened. Cobra's dead. The war's over. But there will be other wars, other enemies, other tests. You'll need to be ready. I will be. I know. Stone put a hand on Ethan's shoulder. That's why I chose you. That's why David chose you. Because we can see what you're becoming. What's that? Stone smiled, barely, just enough. One of us. He walked away, leaving Ethan standing under the oak tree, Reaper's ring heavy on his finger. Sophie found him there. What did my dad want? Ethan showed her the ring. Sophie's breath caught. That was Reaper's. He wanted me to have it. Your dad said. Sophie took his hand, tracing the ring with her fingertips. Do you know what this means? It means I'm in. Really in. It means more than that. Sophie looked up at him, her eyes bright with something like wonder. It means you're being groomed. My dad doesn't give gifts like this randomly. He's preparing you for something. For what? I don't know yet. But whatever it is, Sophie squeezed his hand. You won't face it alone. I promise. Ethan looked at the ring, at Sophie, at the mourners slowly dispersing behind them. 3 weeks ago, he'd been invisible, a ghost surviving on the margins of a world that didn't care about him. Now he stood among killers and kings wearing a dead man's ring, holding a VP's daughter's hand. His old life was gone. His new life was just beginning. And whatever came next, Ethan Cole was ready. 2 weeks after Reaper's funeral, life found a rhythm. Ethan woke up each morning in his grandmother's apartment. New furniture, working heat, a refrigerator that actually stayed cold. Small miracles courtesy of the club. He went to school with Sophie, sat beside her in classes, held her hand in the hallways, kissed her goodbye at the end of each day. He spent afternoons at the clubhouse. Bull continued teaching him mechanics. Viper showed him basic self-defense. Even Ghost pulled him aside occasionally for conversations that felt more like lessons. You're being tested, Sophie told him one evening. They're seeing what you can handle, what you're made of. And what am I made of? They haven't figured that out yet. Sophie smiled. Neither have I. The nights belonged to them. Movies at Sophie's house when Stone was at the clubhouse. Dinners at restaurants Ethan could never have afforded before. Long drives through the city, talking about everything and nothing. What do you want to do after high school? Sophie asked one night. They were parked at the overlook near the river. City lights spread below them like scattered diamonds. I never thought about it before. Never. When you're focused on surviving, you don't plan for the future. You just hope there is one. Ethan traced patterns on the back of her hand. Oh no, I don't know. College maybe. Business degree. Something practical. That's boring. What do you want me to say, rock star astronaut? I want you to tell me what you really want, not what's practical, what you dream about. Ethan was quiet for a long moment. I want to matter. I want to build something. Help people. He laughed softly. Sounds stupid when I say it out loud. It doesn't sound stupid, it sounds like you. Sophie leaned her head on his shoulder. You already matter, you know. To me, to the club, to your grandmother. It's not the same, isn't it? Ethan didn't have an answer. The next morning brought rain and trouble. Ethan knew something was wrong the moment he walked into the clubhouse. The usual noise was absent. Brothers huddled in small groups, speaking in low voices. Faces were grim. Bull intercepted him at the door. Church, now. I'm not a member. I can't. Stone wants you there. Don't argue. The main hall was packed, every patched member present. Prospects lined against the walls. The tension was thick enough to choke on. Stone stood at the front, his face carved from stone. Ghost beside him looking older than his years. We have a problem. Stone's voice cut through the silence. A serious problem. He held up a phone. This was recovered from Rivera's body after the raid. Our tech guy finally cracked the encryption this morning. Stone's jaw tightened. There were messages, communications with someone inside this club. Someone who told the serpents where to find Sophie. The room exploded. Shouts, accusations, brothers turning on each other with suspicion and rage. Quiet! Ghost's voice cracked like thunder. Silence fell. We knew there was a rat. Now we have proof. Ghost's eyes swept the room. The messages were coded. We can't identify the sender yet, but we know one thing. He paused. Let the tension build. The rat is in this room. Right now. Ethan's stomach dropped. He looked around at the face he'd come to know. Bull, Viper, the prospects he'd trained with. Any one of them could be the traitor. Until we find the rat, no one leaves compound without permission. Stone's voice was ice. All communications will be monitored. All movements tracked. If you have nothing to hide, this won't be a problem. His eyes found Ethan. That includes you. I understand. Good. Stone turned back to the room. Whoever did this, whoever sold out my daughter will be found. And when they are... He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. The meeting dispersed in silence. Sophie found Ethan outside, his hands shaking. You okay? No. Ethan ran his fingers through his hair. One of those guys in there tried to get you killed. Talked to me at the barbecue. Called me brother. And the whole time... I know. Sophie's voice was small. I've known some of these men my whole life. I can't imagine any of them. But one of them did. One of them did. They stood in silence, the rain soaking through their clothes. What happens now? Ethan asked. We wait. We watch. And we hope my dad finds the rat before they do more damage. The investigation was brutal. Every member interrogated, every alibi checked, every phone record examined. Ethan watched it unfold from the edges, feeling helpless. He wasn't part of this world, didn't know its secrets or its players, couldn't contribute anything except his presence. But Sophie needed him, so he stayed. 3 days into the lockdown, things escalated. Ethan was in the garage with Bull when the shouting started. They ran toward the main hall. A crowd had formed around two brothers. One was Tank, a massive biker with more tattoos than bare skin. The other was Preacher, a lean man with a scar across his throat. They were nose to nose, fists clenched. Say it again. Tank's voice was a roar. Say it to my face. I said your alibi doesn't hold up. You say you were at the bar that night, but nobody remembers seeing you. Because I was in the back playing poker. Ask anyone. I did ask, nobody backs your story. Tank swung. His fist caught Preacher across the jaw. Preacher staggered but didn't fall. Came back with a punch of his own. Then everyone was moving, brothers pulling them apart, shouting. Chaos. Enough! Stone waded into the melee, grabbed Tank by the collar and threw him backward like he weighed nothing. This is exactly what the rat wants us, tearing each other apart. Stone's eyes blazed. We are brothers, act like it. Tank's chest heaved. His eyes were wild. You want to find the rat? Look at him, he pointed at Preacher. His alibi's bullshit. My alibi's fine. Where were you when the clubhouse got firebombed? Tank, you were supposed to be on guard duty. I was taking a piss for 5 minutes. 5 minutes is all it takes to make a phone call. They lunged at each other again. This time it took 4 brothers to separate them. Stone stepped between them, his presence commanding silence. Tank, Preacher, you're both confined to quarters until this is resolved. Anyone else wants to start throwing accusations. His eyes swept the room. Bring them to me, in private, not like this. The crowd dispersed slowly, leaving behind broken furniture and shattered trust. Sophie appeared at Ethan's side. This is tearing us apart. I know. The rat's winning. Even if we never find them, they've already done more damage than the serpents ever could. Ethan watched Stone walk away, shoulders heavy with a burden he couldn't share. There has to be a way to find them. If there is, my dad will find it. Sophie didn't sound convinced, but at what cost? That night, Ethan couldn't sleep. He lay in his temporary room at the clubhouse staring at the ceiling. The compound was on lockdown. No one in or out without permission. His grandmother was worried but safe. Everyone was worried. A knock at his door. Ethan sat up. Come in. Bull entered, his expression grave. We need to talk. What's wrong? Bull closed the door behind him. I've been going over the messages from Rivera's phone, the coded ones. Most of them are impossible to decipher, but one thing stood out. What? The rat mentioned you. Ethan's blood ran cold. What? Bull pulled out a folded paper, read from it, and, the new kid complicated things. He shouldn't have been there. We need to account for him now. The words hung in the air. Account for me, how? That's what I'm trying to figure out. Bull sat down heavily on the bed. The message was sent 3 days before the diner shooting. The rat knew you'd be there, knew you might interfere. That's impossible. I didn't even know Sophie existed 3 weeks ago. I just happened to be at Rosie's. Ethan stopped, a horrible thought forming. I was at Rosie's every day. Same time, same booth, for months. Bull nodded slowly. Someone was watching, someone knew your pattern. And when they planned the hit on Sophie, they knew you might be a problem. But why I'm nobody? I wasn't connected to the club. I didn't even know who Sophie was. Maybe that's the point. Bull's voice was thoughtful. You were a random variable, an unknown. The rat couldn't predict what you'd do, and unpredictable people are dangerous. Ethan's mind raced. So the rat was watching me before the shooting, knew I might be at the diner, but couldn't account for me actually doing something about it. That's my theory, which means the rat isn't just someone inside the club. It's someone who knows this neighborhood, someone who could watch me without standing out. Bull's expression darkened, or someone with connections here. Eyes on the ground. Like who? That's what we need to find out. The next morning, Ethan asked to speak with Stone. They met in Stone's office, a sparse room with a desk, a chair, and walls covered in maps and photographs. Bull told me about the message. Stone nodded. What do you know about it? Not enough. Stone leaned back in his chair. The rat mentioned you specifically. That means they were watching you before you ever got involved with us. Why would anyone watch me? I'm nobody. You're not nobody anymore. And maybe you weren't nobody then either. Stone's eyes narrowed. Tell me about your routine. Before the shooting, where did you go? Who did you see? Ethan thought back. School, home, Rosie's diner. That's it. I didn't have friends, didn't go to parties, just existed. Anyone unusual at the diner? Someone who showed up around the same time you did? Ethan tried to remember. Rosie's had been his sanctuary. He'd memorized every regular. Then it hit him. There was a guy, started coming in about a month before the shooting. Always sat at the counter, always watched the room. I thought he was just paranoid. Jumpy. Stone leaned forward. What did he look like? White guy, brown hair, average build, nothing memorable. Ethan frowned. He always paid cash, never talked to anyone. Would you recognize him if you saw him again? Maybe, I don't know. Stone was quiet for a moment. The rat had someone watching you, someone reporting back on your movements. His jaw tightened. That means the rat isn't working alone. There's a network, people outside the club feeding them information. How do we find them? We don't, you do. Ethan blinked. What? You're the only one who saw this guy, the only one who might recognize him. Stone stood. I want you to go back to Rosie's, same time, same routine. See if he shows up. You want to use me as bait. I want to use you as reconnaissance. There's a difference. Stone's expression was unreadable. You'll have backup, prospects watching from a distance. If the guy shows up, we follow him. Find out who he reports to. And if he doesn't show up, then we try something else. But this is our best lead. Stone held his gaze. You in? Ethan thought about Sophie, about the rat who tried to get her killed, about the club tearing itself apart from suspicion. I'm in. Rosie's diner looked the same as always. New windows, new booths, but the same greasy smell, the same flickering neon sign, the same tired waitress who'd served Ethan 1,000 orders of cheap fries. He took his old booth in the corner. Sophie had wanted to come. Stone forbade it. Too dangerous, too recognizable. So Ethan sat alone, a cup of coffee cooling in front of him, pretending to read a book, while his eyes scanned every face that entered. 2 hours passed, then 3. The guy didn't show. Ethan was about to give up when the bell over the door chimed. A man walked in, brown hair, average build, forgettable face, the same man from his memories. Ethan's heart hammered. Don't react. Don't show recognition. Just watch. The man took his usual spot at the counter, ordered coffee, pulled out his phone. Normal behavior, nothing suspicious. But Ethan noticed things he'd missed before. The way the man's eyes swept the room every few minutes. The way his body stayed angled toward the door, ready for a quick exit. This was no paranoid regular. This was a professional. Ethan sent a subtle text under the table. He's here. Counter seat, brown jacket. The response came immediately. Stay put. We've got eyes on him. Don't engage. Ethan pretended to read his book. 20 minutes passed. The man finished his coffee, paid Gahem, left. Ethan didn't follow. That wasn't his job. But his phone buzzed again seconds later. We're on him. Stay at the diner. Backup will collect you in 10. Ethan waited, his mind churned with questions. Who was this guy? Who did he report to? How deep did the conspiracy go? The bell chimed again. Ethan looked up, expecting to see his backup. Instead, he saw Tyler Brooks. His stomach dropped. Tyler walked in like he owned the place. Spotted Ethan in the corner booth, his face twisted into something ugly. Well, look who's here. Tyler, I don't want trouble. Too bad. Tyler slid into the seat across from him. We need to talk. About what? About you ruining my life. Tyler's voice was low and bitter. My dad got visited by your biker friends. You know what they told him? That if I ever touched you again, they'd burn our business down. Our family business. 3 generations. I didn't ask them to do that. Doesn't matter. They did it because of you. Tyler leaned forward. I used to be somebody at that school. Everybody respected me. Now they laugh behind my back. Say I'm scared of the scholarship kid. Tyler, I'm not done. Tyler's eyes burned. You think you're special now? Think those bikers make you untouchable? They don't. They just make you a target. Is that a threat? It's a warning. The serpent are gone, but there are other people, other organizations, people who'd pay good money to know where Ethan Cole eats dinner. The blood drained from Ethan's face. What are you saying? I'm saying someone already asked, someone who wanted to know your schedule, your habits, where you'd be vulnerable. Tyler smiled coldly. I told them to go to hell, but the next person they ask might not be so loyal. Ethan's mind raced. Who asked you when? About a month ago, before the shooting, some guy I'd never seen before. Tyler's smile faded. Offered me $5,000 just to tell him where you hung out after school. The guy at the counter, the one he just identified. What did he look like? White guy, brown hair, forgettable. Tyler shrugged. I figured he was a bill collector or something. Told him I didn't know anything about you. But you did know. You'd been harassing me for 3 years. Yeah, well, I'm an asshole, not a snitch. There's a difference. Tyler stood up. Watch your back, Cole. Whatever you've gotten yourself into, it's bigger than some biker beef. He walked out without looking back. Ethan sat frozen. The rat's network. It wasn't just inside the club. It was everywhere, reaching out, gathering information, preparing. For what, his backup arrived 5 minutes later. Two prospects who hustled him out the back door and into a waiting car. "What happened in there?" one of them asked. "I need to talk to Stone. Now." Stone's face was granite as Ethan recounted his conversation with Tyler. "They were gathering intelligence on you before the shooting. Before anyone knew you'd be involved." "Why me? I'm nobody." "Stop saying that." Stone's voice was sharp. "You're not nobody. You haven't been nobody for a long time." "What do you mean?" Stone was quiet for a moment. "Pull up the file," he said to Ghost, who'd been listening silently. Ghost handed over a folder. Stone opened it on the desk. "We ran a deep background on you after the shooting. Standard procedure for anyone who gets close to the club." "I know. Bull told me. He told you the basics. This is the rest." Stone spread out papers. "Your father, Eduardo Martinez, factory worker, died saving a coworker's life. I know this. What you don't know is who that coworker was." Stone pointed to a name on the paper. "James Vance." The blood drained from Ethan's face. "Vance like Danny Vance, Cobra, the man who tried to kill Sophie." Stone's expression was hard. "James Vance was Cobra's father. Your father died saving a serpent's life." Ethan's head spun. That can't be a coincidence." "It's not. We checked. James Vance died 3 years ago, natural causes. But his son, Danny Cobra, he knew about the debt. Knew your father had saved his father's life and paid with his own. So why try to kill Sophie? Why target me?" "Because debts go both ways." Stone's voice was grim. "In Cobra's twisted mind, your father dying for his father created an imbalance. The Vance family owed the Cole family, and Cobra doesn't like owing anyone. He was trying to settle a debt by killing me. By watching you, studying you, making sure you never became a threat." Stone shook his head. "He didn't count on you becoming a hero. Didn't count on you throwing yourself on bullets for a girl you didn't know. When you did that, you went from potential problem to active enemy." Ethan stared at the papers. His father's death certificate, Cobra's family tree, a web of connections he'd never suspected. "The rat, are they connected to this?" "We don't know yet, but the guy watching you at the diner, we followed him. Lost him in the industrial district near the old Serpent territory." Stone's jaw tightened. He's connected to someone who's still pulling strings even though Cobra's dead." "Who?" "That's what we're going to find out." The door burst open. Viper rushed in, his face pale. "Stone, we've got a problem." "What?" "The guy we were following, we found him." Viper swallowed hard. "He's dead, shot in the head, body dumped behind a warehouse." Stone slammed his fist on the desk. "God damn it. There's more." Viper glanced at Ethan. "He had a phone on him, wanted message sent right before he died." "What did it say?" Viper handed over a paper. Stone read it. His face went white. "What?" Ethan's voice cracked. "What does it say?" Stone showed him the message. 4 words. The kid knows now. Ethan's blood turned to ice. Someone knew he was investigating. Someone inside the club had told the rat's network that he was getting close. The rat was still active, and they were watching. Stone looked at Ethan with an expression that was part fury, part fear. "From now on, you don't go anywhere without armed escort. You don't talk to anyone who isn't club. You don't trust anyone. Not even the club." Stone's silence was answer enough. The rat was among them. And now Ethan was the target. The message haunted Ethan for 3 days. The kid knows now. 4 words. 4 words that meant someone inside the club was watching his every move, reporting back to whoever had killed the surveillance guy. Waiting for the right moment to strike. He couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, couldn't look at anyone without wondering if they were the one. Sophie tried to help. "You're going to drive yourself crazy," she said on the 3rd night. They were in his room at the clubhouse, sitting on the bed, her hand wrapped around his. "You can't suspect everyone." "I have to suspect everyone. That's what your dad said." "My dad's paranoid. It's kept him alive, but it's also made him miserable." Sophie squeezed his fingers. "Don't let this change who you are." Maybe who I was wasn't good enough. Maybe that's why I'm in this mess. You're in this mess because you saved my life. Because you're a good person. Sophie's voice cracked. Don't let them take that away from you. Ethan looked at her, at the fear in her eyes, the exhaustion on her face. She was suffering too, living with the knowledge that someone she trusted had tried to get her killed. I'm sorry, he said quietly. For what? For dragging you into my darkness. You've got enough of your own. Sophie laughed, a sad, tired sound. Ethan, I was born into darkness. You're the first light I've had in years. She leaned her head on his shoulder. Whatever happens, we face it together. Okay, okay. They sat in silence, drawing comfort from each other's presence. Neither of them noticed the shadow that passed by the window. The breakthrough came on the fourth day. Ethan was in the garage with Bull when Viper burst in. We found something. They followed him to Ghost's office. Stone was already there along with two tech specialists Ethan didn't recognize. Show them, Ghost commanded. One of the techs pulled up something on a laptop. We've been analyzing the phone from the dead surveillance guy. Most of it was wiped, but we recovered fragments of deleted messages. He pointed to a string of text on the screen. This one stood out. It's a payment confirmation. Money transferred to an account 3 days before the diner shooting. How much? Stone's voice was ice. $50,000. The room went silent. The account's encrypted, but we traced it to a shell company in Nevada. Took some digging, but we finally got a name. The tech typed something. A new screen appeared. A photo. Ethan's blood froze. He knew that face. That's Mr. Patterson. His voice came out strangled. My calculus teacher. Stone turned to him sharply. You know this man? He's been teaching at Lincoln High for years. Sophie's in his class too. Ethan's mind raced. He was nice to me after the shooting. Told me to take my time, made exceptions for my homework. Because he was watching you. Stone's expression was murderous. A teacher, perfect cover, access to students, access to schedules, access to everything. But why? What's his connection to the Serpents? The tech pulled up another screen. Gerald Patterson, 52 years old, former accountant, declared bankruptcy 8 years ago after a gambling addiction destroyed his finances. The tech scrolled down. 3 years ago, he started receiving regular payments from an untraceable source. Coincidentally, that's around when the Iron Serpents started expanding their money laundering operations. He's their accountant, Ghost's voice was grim, washing their money through legitimate channels. And when Cobra needed eyes inside Lincoln High, Patterson was already in place, Stone finished. God damn it, he's been watching Sophie for months, maybe years. But he's not the rat. Ethan's voice was steady despite the chaos in his head. He's outside the club. The rat is inside. He might know who the rat is. Stone's eyes hardened. Viper Bull, get a team together. We're paying Mr. Patterson a visit. Wait, Ethan stepped forward. Let me come. Absolutely not. He knows me, trust me. If I show up at his door, he won't run. He'll think I'm just a student with a question. Ethan met Stone's gaze. I can get you inside. Stone studied him for a long moment. You understand what happens if this goes wrong? I understand. And you're still willing, Ethan thought about Sophie, about the bullets in his back, about the months of fear and suspicion that had torn the club apart. I'm willing. Stone nodded slowly. All right, but you follow my orders exactly. No improvisation. No heroics. I understand. Good. Stone turned to the others. We move tonight. Patterson lived in a modest house in the suburbs. Nice lawn, white picket fence. The American dream wrapped around a monster. Ethan walked up the driveway alone. His heart hammered against his ribs, but his face was calm. He'd learned to hide fear. Learned it from years of being invisible. Now he used that skill for something that mattered. He knocked on the door. Footsteps inside. A pause. Then the door opened. Gerald Patterson looked exactly like he did at school. Cardigan sweater, reading glasses, friendly smile. Ethan, what are you doing here? Mr. Patterson, sorry to bother you at home. I had some questions about the makeup exam. Of course, come in. Patterson stepped aside, gesturing him through the door. I was just making tea. Would you like some? Sure, thanks. Ethan stepped inside. The house was exactly what you'd expect from a high school teacher. Books everywhere, family photos on the walls. The smell of something baking in the kitchen. Normal, safe, lies. So what's troubling you about the exam? Patterson led him toward the kitchen. The integration section most students struggle with. He stopped. Bull stood in the kitchen doorway. Patterson spun around. Stone blocked the front door. Hello, Gerald. Stone's voice was pleasant, almost friendly. We need to talk. Patterson's face went white. I don't know what you think. We know everything. Stone stepped forward. The payments, the surveillance, the connection to the serpents. He smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. The only question is whether you cooperate or whether we do this the hard way. Patterson's eyes darted to Ethan. You brought them here. You tried to get Sophie killed. You watched me for months, reported my movements to people who wanted me dead. Ethan's voice was steady. Did you really think there wouldn't be consequences? Patterson's mask crumbled. I didn't have a choice. They would have killed me, my family. You had a choice, Stone's voice hardened. You made the wrong one. Bull moved forward and grabbed Patterson by the collar, dragged him to a chair, forced him to sit. Here's how this works. Stone crouched in front of him. You're going to tell us everything. Names, dates, the identity of the rat inside my club. And in exchange, you'll let me go. In exchange, you die quickly, clean, instead of what I originally had planned. Patterson started to cry. Please, I have a daughter. She doesn't know anything about this. Please don't hurt her. Then give me what I want. The interrogation lasted 2 hours. Patterson talked about everything, the gambling debts that had made him vulnerable, the serpent recruiter who'd offered him a way out, the years of laundering money through fake tutoring businesses and shell companies. And finally, the name Stone had been hunting. The rat. Who is it? Patterson's face crumpled. I don't know his real name. They called him Preacher. Said he'd been inside the club for years, feeding them information. Stone went still. Preacher, the man who'd accused Tank at the meeting, the man who'd been so quick to point fingers at others. Are you sure? I'm sure. He's the one who told them about Sophie's location. He's the one who arranged the surveillance on the kid. Patterson's voice was barely a whisper. He's been working with the serpents since before Cobra took over. Stone stood slowly. His face was terrifying in its blankness. Bull, secure him. Make sure he doesn't go anywhere. What about his family? They're innocent. Leave them alone. Stone's eyes found Ethan. You with me now. They drove back to the clubhouse in silence. Ethan could feel the rage radiating off Stone like heat from a furnace. Years of brotherhood, years of trust, and it had all been a lie. What happens now? Ethan finally asked. Now we end this. The clubhouse was quiet when they arrived. Too quiet. Stone sensed it immediately. His hand went to his gun. Something's wrong. They moved through the front door carefully. The common room was empty. Chairs overturned. Signs of a struggle. Ghost, Stone called out. Viper. No answer, then a voice from the shadows. They can't hear you. Preacher stepped out from behind the bar. He held a gun, pointed directly at Stone's chest. Hello, Marcus. Surprised to see me? Stone's face was stone. I should have known. Yes, you should have. Preacher's smile was cold, but you were too focused on the obvious threats. The serpents, the outsiders. You never thought to look at the brother standing right beside you. Where's Ghost Viper? Alive for now. I locked them in the basement with the others. Figured you'd want an audience for this. For what? For the end. Preacher stepped closer. See, I've been waiting for this moment for 15 years. Watching you build your little empire, watching you play king while I did all the real work. You were never overlooked, Preacher. You were trusted. Trusted to follow orders. Trusted to stay in my place. Preacher's voice turned bitter. I was supposed to be VP. Everyone knew it. But then you showed up with your pretty face and your pretty daughter, and suddenly I was nobody. So you sold us out to the serpents. I sold you out to anyone who'd pay. The serpents were just the highest bidder. Preacher's gun didn't waver. And now they're all dead, but I'm still here, still watching, still waiting for my moment. Your moment for what? To take what's mine. Preacher's eyes glittered. With you dead and Ghost compromised, the club will need new leadership. Someone strong. Someone who's been here from the beginning. The brothers will never follow you. They'll follow whoever keeps them alive. And once I explained that the VP got himself killed in a tragic confrontation with serpent remnants, Preacher shrugged. Well, narratives are easy to control when you're the only survivor. Stone's jaw tightened. You're making a mistake. The only mistake was waiting this long. Preacher raised the gun. Goodbye, Marcus. A shot rang out, but it didn't come from Preacher's gun. Ethan had moved, silently, instinctively, the way he'd moved in the diner when he saw the gun pointed at Sophie. He'd grabbed a bottle from behind the bar, thrown it at Preacher's head. The bottle connected just as Preacher pulled the trigger. The shot went wide, shattering a window. Stone moved. His hand came up, his gun fired. Preacher staggered, looked down at the red bloom spreading across his chest. You... His voice was confused, almost childlike. You weren't supposed to. He collapsed. Stone stood over him, gun still raised. You were my brother. I trusted you. Preacher laughed, a wet, gurgling sound. That's what made it so easy. He died with a smile on his face. Stone lowered his gun. For a long moment, he just stood staring at the body of the man who'd betrayed everything he believed in. Then he turned to Ethan. You saved my life. I threw a bottle. You did the rest. You moved, without thinking, without hesitation. Stone's eyes were unreadable, just like at the diner. It's what I do, apparently. Stone almost smiled. Yeah, it is. They freed the others from the basement. Ghost was furious. Viper was already planning revenge against anyone who had ever spoken to Preacher. The brothers were shocked, grieving, processing the betrayal of someone they'd trusted for over a decade or so. But it was over. The rat was dead. The serpents were destroyed. The club had survived. Sophie found Ethan in the chaos. She threw her arms around him without a word, held on like she'd never let go. I heard what happened. Her voice was muffled against his chest. You saved my dad. I threw a bottle. You saved my dad. She pulled back, tears streaming down her face. Ethan Cole, you have got to stop almost dying for my family. Can't help it. It's becoming a habit. She laughed through her tears, punched his shoulder, kissed him fiercely. When they finally separated, Stone was watching. You two, his voice was gruff. We need to talk. They followed him to his office. Ghost was there. Viper, Bull, the inner circle of the club's leadership. Sit down. Stone gestured to two empty chairs. They sat. What happened tonight changes things. Stone's voice was heavy. Preacher's betrayal exposed weaknesses we didn't know we had. Trust that wasn't earned. Loyalty that wasn't tested. He looked at Ethan, and it showed us something else. Something rare. What you? Ghost spoke for the first time. 3 times now you've acted when others would have frozen. The diner. The investigation. Tonight, you see what needs to be done and you do it. No hesitation, no thought for yourself. That's not courage. Stone's voice was quiet. That's instinct, the kind that can't be taught. Ethan didn't know what to say. We've been watching you, testing you, trying to figure out who you really are. Stone leaned forward, and we've come to a decision. He reached into his desk, pulled out a leather vest. But this one was different. This one had patches. This is a prospect cut. It means you're officially in consideration for full membership. Stone held it out. It's not a guarantee. You'll have to earn your patch, like everyone else. But it's an invitation. A chance. Ethan stared at the vest. I'm 17. You'll be 18 in 3 months. Old enough to prospect. Ghost's voice was matter of fact. Old enough to choose. What about school? My grandmother. Nothing changes immediately. You finish school, you take care of your family. But you also start learning what it really means to be one of us. Stone's expression softened. This isn't a demand, Ethan. It's an offer. You can walk away right now, keep the protection, keep Sophie, live a normal life. Or you accept, and your life becomes something else entirely. Stone held his gaze. The choice is yours. Ethan looked at the vest, at the patches that represented years of blood and brotherhood, at the future that waited on the other side of a single decision. Then he looked at Sophie. Her eyes were shining, but not with expectation, not with pressure, just with love, support, acceptance of whatever he chose. He thought about his father, the man who died saving a stranger without hesitation, the man whose courage had shaped everything Ethan had become. He thought about his grandmother, the woman who'd raised him alone, who'd sacrificed everything so he could have a chance. He thought about the invisible boy he used to be, the ghost who survived by not being seen. That boy was dead. He died in a diner with bullets in his back. What remained was something new, something forged in fire and blood and loss. Ethan reached out and took the vest. "I'm in." Stone smiled, a real smile, the first Ethan had ever seen from him. "Welcome to the family prospect." The room erupted. Bull grabbed Ethan in a bear hug that threatened to crack his ribs. Viper slapped his back hard enough to sting. Ghost nodded with something like respect. And Sophie kissed him in front of everyone, not caring who saw. "I knew you'd say yes," she whispered against his lips. "Did you? You're one of us. You always were. You just needed to realize it." Ethan pulled back and looked around the room. At these men who'd become his brothers. At this girl who'd become his everything. At this family he'd never expected to find. "What happens now?" "Now," Stone put a hand on his shoulder. "Now you learn. You grow. You prove yourself." His eyes were warm. "And you stop asking questions I can't answer." Ethan laughed. For the first time in months, it felt real. 1 year later, Ethan Cole stood in front of the full club assembly, 18 years old, high school graduate, prospect who'd proven himself 100 times over. Ghost held the patch. "Ethan Cole, you came to us as a stranger. A boy who threw himself on bullets for someone he didn't know. A boy with more courage than sense and more heart than he knew what to do with." Ghost's voice echoed through the silent hall. "You've earned your place among us, not through blood or birthright, but through action, through sacrifice, through honor." He held out the patch. "Do you accept the responsibilities of brotherhood, the bonds that cannot be broken, the loyalty that outlasts death?" Ethan's voice was steady. "I do." "Then welcome, brother." The patch was sewn onto his cut by Sophie's own hands. Full member, full brother, full circle. Afterward, Stone pulled him aside. "You know this is just the beginning." "I know. There will be more wars, more enemies, more tests." Stone's expression was serious. "The life you've chosen isn't easy. It isn't safe, and it isn't for everyone." "I know." "Do you regret it?" Ethan looked around the clubhouse. At Bull teaching a new prospect how to pour drinks. At Viper arguing about motorcycle modifications. At Ghost sitting quietly in the corner, watching everything with those ancient eyes. At Sophie standing by the door waiting for him with a smile that could light up the darkest night. "No." Ethan turned back to Stone. "Not for a second." Stone studied him for a long moment. Then he did something unexpected. He hugged him. A brief, fierce embrace. Father to son, brother to brother. "Your father would be proud of you." Ethan's throat tightened. "You think so?" "I know so." He raised a man of honor, a man who runs toward danger instead of away from it, a man who protects the people he loves without counting the cost. Stone pulled back. "That's his legacy, and now it's yours." They walked back toward the celebration together. Sophie met them at the door. "Ready?" Ethan took her hand. "Ready." They stepped out into the evening air. The sun was setting behind the compound, painting the sky in shades of gold and red. Motorcycles lined the driveway, chrome gleaming in the fading light. This was his life now, not the invisible existence he'd accepted for so long, not the desperate survival that had defined his childhood. Something new, something real, something worth fighting for. Sophie leaned her head on his shoulder. "What are you thinking about?" "Everything." "Nothing." Ethan smiled. "Just how different things are now. Different good or different bad. Different right." He wrapped an arm around her. "For the first time in my life, I feel like I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be." "That's because you are." Sophie looked up at him. "You found your place, your people, your purpose. I found you. That too. She kissed him softly. But I like to think I found you first. Behind them, the clubhouse erupted in celebration, music and laughter and the rumble of engines being started for a victory ride. Their family, their home, their future. Ethan Cole had spent 17 years being invisible, hiding from a world that didn't want him, surviving instead of living. Then he'd thrown himself on bullets for a stranger and discovered what it meant to truly exist. He'd found brotherhood in leather and chrome, found love in gray eyes and fierce courage, found purpose in protecting the people who'd given him a second chance. He'd been invisible once. Now he was unforgettable. And as he climbed onto his motorcycle, his own bike earned through months of hard work and harder lessons, with Sophie's arms wrapped around his waist, Ethan Cole rode into the sunset with his brothers at his side and his future burning bright before him. The boy who threw himself on bullets had become a man who would never hide again. This was his story. This was his family. This was his life. And he wouldn't trade it for anything in the world.